We are the Guinea Pig Collective. All will be assimilated. Resistance is futile.
Searching for old treasures, blowing off the dust. Timeless stories and legendary characters. This is Talking Movies. Hey everybody, what's going on? And welcome back to another Talking Movies. So today's movie in question will be the 1989, written and directed by Eddie Murphy, Harlem Nights. So besides writing and directing, also starring Eddie Murphy as Quick, Richard Pryor as Sugar Ray, Red Fox as Benny Wilson, Danny Aiello as Phil Cantone, Michael Lerner as Bugsy Calhoun, Della Reese as Vera, Berlinda Tolbert as Annie, Stan Shaw as Jack Jenkins, Jasmine Guy as Dominique LaRue, Vic Polis as Richie Vento, Leela Rochin as Sunshine, David Marciano as Tony, Arsenio Hall as the Crying Man, Thomas Michael Ford as Tommy Smalls, Uncle Ray Murphy as Willie. And because it's Eddie Murphy, his brother Charlie Murphy. That's right, Charlie Murphy as Jimmy. The plot to this one is not overly complicated. So during the 1930s, a New York City illegal gambling house owner and his associates must deal with strong competition from not only gangsters but corrupt cops in order to stay in business. So not only starring Eddie Murphy but also Richard Pryor and a host of other incredibly talented cast members that were known for their comedy, you know that this movie has comedy in it. It is actually a very well done movie, and the story plot moves along rather well. There are some action sequences and a couple of almost love sequences, if you will. And although everything seemed to gel well when you see this movie, there was actually some tension involved on the set. So in his autobiography, Pryor, Convictions and Other Life Sentences from 1997, Richard Pryor states that he never connected with Eddie Murphy. People talked about how my work had influenced Eddie, and perhaps it did, but I always thought Eddie's comedy was mean. I used to say, Eddie, be a little nice, and that would piss him off. I finished Harlem Nights thinking that Eddie didn't like me. Although Richard Pryor felt this way, Eddie Murphy had once said that the jokes and the camaraderie between him, Richard Pryor, Red Fox, Robin Harris, and Della Reese behind the scenes was much funnier than anything that was actually in the film. So, according to Gabby Tartakovsky's June 7th, 2011 article, Harlem Nights, Eddie Murphy, and the original Gangsters of Black Comedy, at the Pop Matters website, Pryor's toning down the Sugar Ray character wasn't scripted as such, and Pryor believed his performance was the result of being bothered with a recent multiple sclerosis diagnosis, which he kept to himself at the time. This movie starred 3 generations of Black American stand-up comics and actors: Red Fox, Richard Pryor, and Eddie Murphy. And the story of Irish mobster Bugsy Calhoun trying to take over Sugar Ray's nightclub in order to control Black Harlem is loosely inspired by the real-life feud between Jewish gangster Dutch Schultz and black gangster Bumpy Johnson over control of Harlem's lucrative numbers gambling rackets in the mid-1930s. And sadly, this was the final cinema movie of Red Fox. And speaking of Fox, the vulgar yet playful arguments between Red Fox and Della Reese on the set inspired Eddie Murphy to create a series starring the two. The result was The Royal Family 1991, which was Fox's final project before his death. And this film was made because Eddie Murphy always wanted to direct and act in a period piece. Also, Murphy had always wanted to work with Richard Pryor, whom Murphy had considered to be the greatest influence on his work in stand-up comedy. And although this film has become a cult classic, unlike a lot of other cult classics, this one reportedly at the global box office grossed about 3.5 times the amount of its budget cost to produce. Now, Paramount Pictures actually wanted Robert Duvall to play Bugsy Calhoun, but Murphy insisted that Michael Lerner be cast in the role. And after coming to America in 1988, this was Arsenio Hall and Eddie Murphy's final film together. But hilariously, despite being set in the Harlem neighborhood of New York City, the entire film is shot in Los Angeles. And of course, here we go with some of the goofs. A double yellow line dividing the road can be seen when Quick is being chased down the highway by Tommy Small's brother. Center lines in 1938 were painted white. Double yellow lines were not used on U.S. highways until 1971. Multiple lines of dialogue actually reflect later 20th century speech and not that of the film's 1930s setting. After Jack Jenkins leaves Sugar Ray's and Quick's table in the restaurant, they talk about the 3-to-1 odds they will receive on Jenkins for the upcoming fight. When Phil and Bugsy are talking in the sauna, they say the odds for Jenkins' opponent, Kirkpatrick, are 3-to-1. They are saying that the odds on both fighters are the same. When Tommy's brother and his friends shoot at Quick, the man fires his revolver 7 times without reloading. Anyway, guys, that's really all I have on this one. Have you seen this movie? Do you remember this movie? Are you planning to watch this movie? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And of course, as always, if you've enjoyed what you've seen and you've heard, go ahead and destroy that like button for me. And if you are new to the channel, welcome. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. And if you have, I hope you will consider subscribing. And I will catch you all next time. Later, y'all.